Dave is going to get things rolling right now. Take it away, Dave.
Great to be back. I am comedian Dave. I'll tell you a few stories now, and I'll see you at the very end. I'll tell a few stories now, and then I'll tell a few at the very end. Stuart and his wife Barbara, they go to the county fair every year. And every year, Stuart would say to Barbara, "I'd like to take a ride in that helicopter." Barbara always replied, "I know, Stuart, but that helicopter is $70. And $70 is $70. 1 year later, Stuart and Barbara went to the fair. Stuart said, "Barbara, I'm 75 years old. If I don't ride that helicopter, I might not ever get another chance." To this, Barbara replied, "Stuart, that helicopter ride is $70. And $70 is $70. Well, the pilot overheard the couple and said, "Folks, I'll make you a deal. I'll take both of you up for a ride. If you can stay quiet for the entire ride and don't say a word, I won't charge you a penny. But if you say one word, it's $70. Well, Stuart and Barbara agreed, and up they went. The pilot did all kinds of fancy maneuvers, but not a word was heard. He did his daredevil tricks over and over again, but still not a word. When they landed, the pilot turned to Stuart and said, "By golly, I did everything I could to get you to yell out, but you didn't. I'm impressed." Stuart replied, "Well, to tell you the truth, I almost said something when Barbara fell out, but you know $70 is $70. A young boy had just received his driving permit. He asked his father, who was a church minister, if they could discuss the use of the family car. His father took him into the study and said, "I'll make a deal with you. You bring your grades up, study your Bible a little, and get your hair cut, and then we'll talk about it." Well, after a month, the boy came back and asked his father again if they could discuss the use of the car. They again went into the father's study, where the father said, "Son, I've been very proud of you. You brought your grades up. You studied the Bible diligently, but you didn't get your hair cut." The young man waited a moment and then replied, "You know, Dad, I've been thinking about that. You know, Samson had long hair. Moses had long hair. Noah had long hair. And even Jesus had long hair." The church minister said, "Yes, and everywhere they went, they walked." Okay. A teacher gave her 5th grade class an assignment. Get the parent to tell them a story with a moral at the end of it. Well, the next day, the kids came back and one by one began to tell their stories. They were all the regular types of stuff: spilled milk, penny saved, blah, blah, blah. But then the teacher realized, much to her dismay, that little Janie hadn't spoke yet. She said, "Janie, do you have a story to share?" "Oh, yes. My daddy told me a story about my mama. She was a fighter pilot with the Marines in Syria. Her aircraft got hit by enemy fire and she was forced to bail out over enemy territory. All she had was a full flask of whiskey, a pistol, and a survival knife. But she drank all the whiskey on the way down in case it got confiscated by the Muslims. And her parachute landed right in the middle of 20 ISIS fighters. She shot 15 of them with the pistol until she ran out of bullets, killed 4 more with her knife until the blade broke, then she killed the last ISIS fighter with her bare hands. Good heavens, said the horrified teacher. What did your daddy tell you the moral of this horrible story was? Stay the hell away from your mother when she's been drinking.
Thank you, Comedian Dave. So, next, Ellen Bourne, Ann Bell, Kathy Rice, Shirley Hansel, Nancy Roberts, Lynn Burroughs all have one thing in common. They sound really good together. They're part of the a cappella women's ensemble, Sweet Harmony.
Embrace me, my sweet embrace of all you. Embrace me, you irreplaceable all you. Just one look at you, my heart grew tipsy in me. You and you alone bring out the gypsy in me. I love all the many charms about you. Above all, I want my arms about you. Don't be a naughty baby. Come to mama, do. My sweet embrace of all you. My sweet embrace of all. Lollipop, lollipop, oh lolly, 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 lollipop, lollipop, oh lolly, 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 lollipop, lollipop, oh lolly, 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 lollipop. Lollipop, lollipop, oh lolly, 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 lollipop, lollipop, oh lolly, 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 lollipop, lollipop, oh lolly, 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 lollipop. Oh, my baby lollipop, tell you what, his kiss is sweeter than an apple pie. And when he does the shaky rock and dance, man, I haven't got a chance. I call him lollipop, lollipop, oh lolly, 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 lollipop, lollipop, oh lolly, 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 lollipop, lollipop, oh lolly, 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 lollipop. Sweeter than candy on a stick, huckleberry, cherry, or lime. If you had a chance, he'd be your pick, but lollipop is mine. Lollipop, lollipop, oh lolly, 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 lollipop, lollipop, oh lolly, 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 lollipop, lollipop, oh lolly, 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 lollipop. Crazy when he thrills at me, tell you why, just like the lightning from the sky. He loves to kiss me till I can't see straight. Gee, my lollipop is great. I call him lollipop, lollipop, oh lolly, 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 lollipop, lollipop, oh lolly, 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 lollipop, lollipop, oh lolly, 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 lollipop. Lollipop, lollipop, oh lolly, 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 lollipop, lollipop, oh lolly, 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 lollipop, lollipop, oh lolly, 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 lollipop, a lollipop.
Okay, thank you, Sweet Harmony. So you are in for a sassy treat. Hold on to your seat as Mrs. Becky Burchfield performs It's Hard to Be Humble.
because how many of you have been having a wonderful day and suddenly your husband comes up and says, honey, we need to talk. And you go, oh my stars, what have I done now? Well, that happened to me recently. Bert and I were having a wonderful dinner in our luxurious kitchen. And we were eating and everything was quiet and wonderful. And all of a sudden Bert says, Becky, we need to talk. And I go, okay. And so he starts talking. And I hear more frugal, less talking, more attention, and more humility. And at that point, I jumped up from the table. I kicked my chair over to the side. And you know what I said to Bert? Oh, Bert, it's hard to be humble when you're perfect in every way. I can't wait to look in the mirror. I get better looking each day. To know me is to love me. I'm just a wonderful gal. Oh, Bert, it's hard to be humble, but I'm doing the best I know how. Oh, Bert, it's hard to be humble when you're perfect in every way. I make the look in the mirror. I get better looking each day. To know me is to love me. I'm just a wonderful gal. Oh, Bert, it's hard to be humble, but I'm doing the best I know how. Oh, I'm doing the best I know how.
Okay, now we have Buck Locke. We're going to enjoy listening to the Heritage Light Trail. Mr. Locke.
A hard act to follow. The Heritage, we have a live station trail. Has anybody been on that trail? Yeah, look at that. A lot of people have been. Most of the people raising their hands have a dog. But there's also 10 stations for exercising along that trail. And the station is like a triangular structure, and it has instructions so you can work your arms, you can work your legs, you can stretch and everything. So when we first moved here, I was looking at this. One of the things I noticed was that they had inspirational sayings so you could exercise not only your body but your mind. So I decided to write some poems about these sayings. And the first one is a inspirational saying by Helen Keller. And I was particularly drawn to this because I was born in the Helen Keller Hospital, about 1 mile away from Helen's home. And my home was about 2 miles away from that hospital where I grew up. And her inspirational saying is, many persons have the wrong idea of what constitutes true happiness. It is not attained through self-gratification, but through fidelity to a worthy purpose. So I started thinking about this, and this is the following point. What do you think constitutes true happiness? A full stomach? A full bank account? Is self-gratification your concept of contentedness? Greed can exceed any given amount. For some, too much is never enough. Shifting focus from inner to other is required, so you have to be tough. Focus not on yourself, but on your brother. Let that be your purpose, your objective. May you have fidelity to the cause. From any perspective, you're living up to God's laws. Love your neighbor as yourself. Take down your Bible from the shelf. So, the next one that I wrote about was Lily Tomlin. She was on Laugh In the late 1960s, early 70s. Maybe all of you remember, or some of you, not all of them, remember that. But she was Ernestine, the telephone operator. And her quote is, "Reality is the leading cause of stress among those in touch with it." That is something I have to confess. Yes, it is true. I have lots of stress. I get up in the morning to face the day, filled with energy, till to my dismay, reality lays its heavy hand on my heart, overwhelming me at the very start. My energy ebbs away as reality holds sway. I look at my to-do list with dismay. Beside the incoming deluge of new assignments, emails so huge, how will I ever be able to cope? Drowning in trivia, no hope. Yes, reality, I have to confess, leaves my life in a mess. So the next one, I suspect all of us love Lucy. This quote is from Lucille Ball. You have to love Lucy. I do anyway. The secret of staying young is to live honestly. Eat slowly and lie about your age. Everybody loves Lucy. There are secrets I can't deny. Those who want to stay young. One of those, it is true, is to learn to lie, which springs readily to the tongue. How is one to live? Honestly, that would be hard, for that would mean we have to forgive those who lie, would be on guard. Perhaps the question is answered best if one decides to slowly eat. They can pass this test, and that would be a treat. So my friend, listen to Lucille Ball as she answers our most difficult question. Lying is the easiest of all. That is her suggestion. There's no reason to become unstrung. You now have the secret to staying young. Now, I'm going to finish with this great inspiration, at least I found it very great, from Eleanor Roosevelt. Friendship with oneself is all important, because without it, one cannot be friends with anyone else in the world. And that's a good thing to remember each and every day. A lot of times we can all be hard on ourselves. So you have to know where to start. You have to put it in your heart. And it is you, my friend, at the beginning, not the end. First get acquainted with you. That is beginning, it is true. Know yourself before trying. Start out with the truth, no lying. Accept yourself for what you are. You can then begin to create a better you. Begin at once, for the journey is far, to shape the you that is brand new. So, the life trail has inspiration for the body and the mind, and I look forward to seeing all of you out there in the morning.
That kind of felt like church a little bit, so thank you for that. Okay, next we have a very special performance. There is a tavern in the town, and I'm not sure if you're familiar with this. It is a traditional Welsh song that first appeared in 1883. It was the college anthem of Trinity University College, and it famously was performed by Rudy Valle. It was also appeared in miscellaneous films and productions, as well as on an album by Nat King Cole. But tonight, it's making an appearance here at the Heritage on that stage by our very own Sandra Kine, whose dress she is wearing tonight. Please notice it when she's performing. It was handmade by Dr. Kine, Pete Kine's mother, about 100 years ago. Every stitch is by hand, including all the embroidery. Our very own Sandra Kine.
I'm going to tell you a really sad story. There is a tavern in the town, and there my true love sits him down, and drinks his wine, mid laughter free, and never ever thinks of me. Fare thee well, for I must leave thee. Do not let this parting grieve thee, and remember that the best of friends must part, must part. Adieu, adieu, kind friends, adieu, adieu. I can no longer stay with you, I'll depend on a weeping willow tree, and may the world go well with thee. He left me for a damsel dark, each Friday night they used to spark, and now my love once true to me, as that dark damsel on his knee. Fare thee well, for I must leave thee. Do not let this parting grieve thee, but remember that the best of friends must part, must part. Adieu, adieu, kind friends, adieu, adieu. I can no longer stay with you, I'll hang my hat on a weeping willow tree, and may the world go well with thee. So dig my grave both wide and deep, put tombstones at my head and feet, and on my breast carve a turtle dove to signify I died of love. Fare thee well, for I must leave thee. Do not let this parting grieve thee, but remember that the best of friends must part, must part. Adieu, adieu, kind friends, adieu, adieu. I can no longer stay with you, I'll hang my hat on a weeping willow tree,
Next, we have the Heritage Tappers. They have been practicing all year under the instruction of Tony DeTore and the leadership of Kathy Hancock. The other performers are Betty Daly, Linda Staley, Judy Beavers, Kathy Miller, and Sharon Giles. After you see this performance, you will want to sign up for their new beginners class on October 24th. More information coming in your in-house mailbox. Stay tuned. Take it away. Sing it in the rain. Next, we have our talented resident piano player, storyteller, and so many other talents he has. He's an artist as well, Bill Thresher, who will share some poetry.
Okay, I've got a couple of poems. Just a word about each one. The first one is called Brentwood. Several hundred times, I guess, I have driven past an old derelict barn in West Kentucky on the way out to my in-laws' lake house. It's in the bend in the road, a little tiny country road. It's been forgotten. Weeds have grown up through it. You can barely see it, but it tickles my imagination. So I wrote Barnwood. Sturdy still, the barn stands in great defiance of the worst the winds and rain and years can do. To aged barnwood, nailed together by strong, silent men so long ago that no one alive knows a time when there was no barn there. Weeds and wild vines block the yawning doorway. Doors frozen open on rusted hinges will never close again. Now, in the dark beyond the doors, slivers of light shine through cracks between the boards. Now, wild creatures lurk in that darkness, nesting, coiling, scurrying, where cattle fed and tractors thrummed. Or maybe this was a tobacco barn with curing smoke that sifted into the fall sky, where a family's summer's work hung in anticipation of the auctioneer's verdict. Or maybe in this barn, a mule was retired from its life pulling a plow to give way to a noisy tractor that the neighbors dropped by to admire. Where thistles now tangle and dragonflies flit, men once stood and talked of rain and drought and the crop. Sturdy men with weathered faces, lined and leathered by the sun and wind, barnwood faces. The next poem is simply called Offertory, and I borrowed that from the name of a piece of music written by John Ness Beck called Offertory. One Sunday morning I was at church. Shirley was not with me. I was sitting on the other side from where we normally sit, which gives you a whole different perspective of church. And the sunlight was coming through the windows. Now, our windows are not stained glass, but I grew up in a church with stained glass windows. And I listened to the music, and there was no vocal with it that day. It was a beautiful piece of music, but the words are taken from the book of Micah. And paraphrasing, the people who sing are singing basically, with what shall I come before the Lord? And what does the Lord require of you? To act justly, and to love mercy, and to, and to walk humbly with your God. This is offertory. Cued by the organ, the congregation stands as the rising sun touches the tops of stained glass windows. Sunlight slowly ignites halos around the heads of Christ and Paul, and the tips of towering angels' wings begin to glow. While we immerse ourselves in age-old rituals, the brightness spreads and the windows come alive. The dark manger brightens as if lit by the star that summons the shepherds. This is the day the faithful gather, tinted by the light from the saints. In pews where generations of believers have sat, I think today of those saintly faces I have seen here in this place. Faces that came to worship, to baptize their children, and finally to be buried. The place where the Ramseys sit today, with their children coloring pictures begun in Sunday school, is where the Utterbacks sat when my children finished their Sunday school pictures during the sermon. They were fascinated by the way the old couple hooked their canes over the back of the pew in front, and the way the moving sunlight would touch first one and then the second polished handle. Behind the Ramseys, another young couple with a single child shares the pew with the Dowds. The light from the windows play across Mrs. Dowd's thinning hair, tinting it the deep blue of a Magi's cape. Old heads replace young heads that never knew the Utterbacks, or the Finleys, or old Mr. Krause, all saintly people baptized in the colors of glass saints. The young heads would have enjoyed Mr. Utterback's rumbling chuckle, and still, still in Neville's lilac-scented hugs when passing the piece. Those people humble me as my hair is turned white. I fear I'm not their measure. By the time the choir stands to sing the offertory, both sides of the center aisle are drenched in shimmering colors. In our pews we sit, painted by the wind as saints, and stand and sing and pray beneath the fixed, silent figures. Figures that have watched the passing of generations, who say their allotted years, walk humbly with their God, and then are gone. Those windless saints and shepherds once themselves moved and toiled and wept and praised and did their day's work and died. All are fixed now, the saints in lead and stained glass, the Utterbacks and the others in my memory, and in graves marked by arched stones. By the closing anthem, the sun is full high, and as I look up to watch the acolyte process out the center aisle, for an instant I am blinded by the sun, and I think of Saul, blinded by a great light, who fell to the ground to arise as Paul, to stand today aglow in stained glass.
The next entertainer, you will enjoy the beautiful piano stylings of Nancy Roberts. Playera Spanish Dance. Okay, this little lady that's up next is sure to put a smile on your face, performing to Chantilly Lace, Miss Neva Graves.
Hello, baby. Yeah, this is the Big Papa speaking. Oh, you sweet thing. Do I want? Will I want? Oh, baby, you know what I like. Chantilly lace and a pretty face and a ponytail hanging down. Wiggling, walking, giggling, talk. Baby, move around. There ain't nothing in the world like a big-eyed girl to make me act so funny, make me spend my money, make me feel real loose like a long-necked goose, like a girl. Oh, baby, that's what I like. What's that, baby? Oh, honey. Oh, baby, you know what I like. Chantilly lace and a pretty face and a ponytail hanging down, wiggling, walking, giggling, talking. Make the world round, round, round. There ain't nothing in the world like a big-eyed girl. Make me act so funny, make me spend my money, make me feel real loose like a long-necked goose, like a girl. Oh, baby, that's the one I like. What's that, honey? Pick you up at 8, and don't be late. But baby, I ain't got no money, honey. Oh, all right, honey, you know what I like. Chantilly lace and a pretty face, ponytail hanging down, wiggling, walking, giggling, talking. Lord, baby, work around. There ain't nothing in the world like a big-eyed girl. Make me act so funny, make me spend my money, make me feel real loose like a long-necked goose, like a girl. Oh, baby, that's the one I like.
Gets me every time. That's fantastic. Okay, we've made it full circle as we close our show. Comedy Dave coming up. Comedian Dave. Take it away. Take us home.
They put me on the end because if you remember last year, I told a few little risque jokes, and I remember the one that started out with a Vaseline salesman and a lady with her 10-year-old son ran out of here before she heard the clean punchline for it. So, we saved the last ones, but a little bit, you know. Bubba, a prosperous furniture dealer, was from Arkansas, and he wanted to expand his line of furniture in the store and decided he needed to go to Paris to find a really neat new line. And after he arrived in Paris and met with a few manufacturers, he selected a line that he thought would go real well selling back in Arkansas. He was really so happy about it. To celebrate his acquisition, he decided to visit a small bistro and have a glass of wine. As he sat down enjoying his wine, he noticed the small place was quite crowded. There was only one small table in the corner for 2 people. Well, he sat down, but before long, a very beautiful young Parisian girl came in, stood by his table, asked him something in French, which he didn't understand a word of, but she pointed at the table and he realized she was wanting to sit down. So he motioned for her to sit down in the chair. Before long, This person tried to speak. She couldn't speak English. He couldn't speak French. So Bubba's not real dumb. He decided he'd find out a little bit more about her by taking out a napkin. And he drew a picture on the napkin of a glass of wine. And she nodded. So he got the waitress over, and she had a glass of wine with him. A little bit later, he said, couldn't talk again to her, so he took another napkin out, and he drew some food on a plate. And she again nodded. Well, this was just a bistro, a bar. There was no, dinner or anything served there. So they walked down the street and found this really neat, quiet cafe that featured a small group playing romantic music. They ordered dinner, after which he took another napkin out and drew a picture of a couple dancing. And she nodded again. And they got up and they danced. And they danced. And they danced all night until the cafe closed and the band was packing up. Returning to their table, this beautiful young Parisian girl, she took the napkin and she drew a picture of a 4-poster bed. To this day, Bubba has no idea how she figured out he was in the furniture business. A second grader asked her mother the age-old question, "How did I get here?" Her mother told her, "God sent you." "Did God send you too?" asked the child. "Yes, dear," the mother replied. "What about Grandma and Grandpa?" the child persisted. "He sent them also," the mother said. "Did he send their parents too?" asked the child. "Yes, dear, he did," said the mother patiently. "So you're telling me that there has been no sex in this family for 200 years? Nobody? No wonder everybody's so grouchy around here." Finally, there's this Miss Beatrice, the church organist. She was in her 80s, has never been married, but she's admired for sweetness and kindness to everybody in the congregation. So one afternoon, the pastor came to call on her, and she showed him into her quaint sitting room. She invited him to have a seat while she prepared tea. Well, as he sat facing her old Hammond organ, the young minister noted a cut glass bowl sitting on top of the organ. The bowl was filled with water, and in the water floated, of all things, a condom. When she returned with the tea and scones, they began to chat. The pastor tried to stifle his curiosity about the bowl of water and its strange floater, but soon it got the better of him, and he could no longer resist. "Miss Beatrice," he said, "I wonder if you would tell me about this," pointing to the glass bowl. "Oh, yes," she replied. "Isn't it wonderful? I was walking through the park a few months ago, and I found this little package on the ground. The directions said, place it on the organ, keep it wet, and it would prevent the spread of disease all year. You know, I haven't had the flu all winter."